Hey y'all, it's Brittany and welcome back. This week we will be talking all about the case of Gemma Barker. Now this case is a case full of learning moments for our younger generation, our teens out there, our girls, our kids, our sons for that matter. This is a case of two very important things. The first thing is catfishing gone completely wrong. Catfishing is already crazy in itself. In our new day and age, we are doing everything on the internet, living all of our lives on the internet and for the internet to see. So definitely gonna learn some lessons in this case today. And also this is a case of knowing who your friends are and watching out for the signs, because these friends in this case. So if you want to hear all about the case of Gemma Barker over in the UK, stay tuned. All right, so always kicking it off with gratitude. Thank you everyone who has subscribed and supported the channel. I see y'all out there. I see those comments. And for those of you who are just finding the channel, welcome sis, welcome sir. We are growing, as you can see. I hope that you are enjoying the content so far. And if you are, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. Also hit that notification bell so that you get notified when any new content goes up. And make sure you hop in those comments. This is all about community here. So join the community, get involved, let's move on. Now really quick before we hop into today's story, I just wanted to share with you guys that this video, we will be working with Merit Beauty. We will be hopping back into some true crime and makeup just for this week. So we will be featuring 5 products from Merit Beauty. For those of you who are not aware, Merit Beauty is a very clean, minimalist beauty line. They specialize in less is more looks, okay? So today we will be focusing on creating a quick, everyday, not super glam, just nice and beautiful natural beauty look as we're talking through today's story. But the products that I'll be using, I'll introduce them quickly and then we can hop into today's story. I'll be using their Minimalist Perfecting Complexion Sticks. I have the shade Cacao and I also have the shade in Suede, so I'll be using one as a concealer and the other as foundation. I will also be using their brush number 1 blending brush. Now this is the award-winning Merit Beauty blending brush. As a highlighter, I'll be using their Day Glow highlighting balm in the shade Bounce. I'll be using their Clean Lash Lengthening Mascara. And then the final product that I'll be using today is their Shade Stick Tinted Lip Oil, and this will be in the shade Falcon. So I will be incorporating all of these clean minimalist beauty products into today's look, creating just a quick everyday kind of on the go almost natural beauty look. And at the end I'll talk a bit about what I think of the products, but if you guys want to check them out, there's a link in the description box with a little bit of a discount for you. And let's hop into today's stories. Now the story this week doesn't necessarily contain any loss of life or anything like that, so in some ways it's a lighter story this week, which is why I figured I'd do some true crime and makeup. But this week's story is much more in a story format, so just follow along with me. It might feel like I'm telling you a high school story, but just hang in there, okay? I promise, hang in there. So the story starts with a girl by the name of Jessica, who was probably 14 or 15 years old at the very beginning of the story. But Jessica lived with her grandmother, and her grandmother was not very fond of Jessica dating or anything like that. She really wanted Jessica to focus on being a kid and being a high schooler and doing well in school. Now in 2007, when Jess was about 15 years old, she met a girl by the name of Alice. And now Alice is not her real name, but that is the name that we will use for this story because she wanted to remain anonymous. Alice and Jess really hit it off and became good friends. And at the time, Alice was already friends with a girl by the name of Gemma. And also Gemma was older than the other two girls and she could drive. So Gemma had a car. Gemma was cool. She was older. So they really wanted to be her friend. Now, while they hung out a lot in person, they also did a lot of their communication on chat sites, MSN chat, things like that. And they also did a lot of communication on Facebook. Now, this is 2007. Now, the 3 girls had been friends for a couple years. And in 2009, Alice got a request, a Facebook request from a guy by the name of Aaron. Now his name was Aaron Lampard, and they started to chat. They chatted on MSN chat, and he was really nice. He complimented Alice a lot. He told her she was pretty, you know, things that young high school girls want to hear. But he would compliment her all the time, and he was really nice to her, and she would tell Gemma about her new friend that she met online, and Gemma encouraged her to start kind of an online relationship with him, and she did. Now Alice finally got to the point where, you know, she had had enough of the online relationship and she wanted to meet him face to face. He supposedly lived nearby, so she thought that there would be nothing wrong with that. He really wasn't too fond of the idea initially, but I think he kind of got to the point of, you know, the fear of, well, if I don't meet this girl in person, she's gonna stop talking to me. So he finally agreed to meet Alice in person. So Aaron and Alice met in person at a park right near Alice's house. And when he showed up, he had on, you know, baggy clothes, typical high school boy clothes, and he had on a hat. And it was a hat that had kind of the like long strings on the ears, the ear flaps, and then like the balls at the bottom, and then it had like a ball at the top of the hat as well. This was a hat that he wore all the time and never wanted to take it off. But she thought, fine, you know, he's a real person, and she was happy with that. She was happy with the fact that he actually met her in person, and he appeared to be who he said he was. And about a few weeks later, Aaron eventually asked Alice to be his girlfriend. Alice, of course, said yes. Since Alice had a newly formed relationship and a new boyfriend, of course she's going to introduce her new boyfriend to her best friends. So Jess is introduced to Aaron, and Aaron is really nice, and he chats with her all the time as friends. They talk on the phone even, and they almost become like best friends as well. Now Jess also meets Aaron in person, and she recalls him wearing that same weird hat as well, and never really wanting to take it off whatsoever. Outside of that, he seemed like a normal guy, but then shortly after, a pattern would start to form with Aaron and Alice's relationship. So anytime there seemed to be some type of argument or they weren't talking very much, Aaron would reach out to Alice and say that there's been some type of family catastrophe. It would be something like his brother has leukemia, or one of his brothers drowned and died, like super drastic, just to get sympathy and a reaction out of Alice to make their relationship, you know, back to normal. She feels sorry for him, and they get back together and things would be back to normal. But things are generally going okay with Aaron and Allison, and then a guy by the name of Luke Jones comes along. Now Luke is interested in Jess, so he actually friends Jess, and they started talking on MSN chat, but he also happened to be a friend of Aaron's. Now, Aaron also knew Gemma, so they all know each other, so Jess felt comfortable talking to this guy, Luke. But he, again, is super sweet. He's complimenting her all the time. He's flirty. He's her type. And, you know, she starts to fall for him. So they talk for a while, and then it's finally time for them to meet up. They both want to meet up. So they meet up, and Jess, you know, likes what she sees. She feels like he's completely different from Aaron. They're friends, but they're completely different guys. They, you know, walk different, talk different, all kinds of differences between them. He dresses much more athletically, kind of hip, sweats, Nike shoes. He wears like a fitted snapback hat instead of this weird winter hat that Aaron wears all year round. Just more of Jess's type. He also spoke a bit differently, where Aaron spoke more properly, chatted more properly. Luke was more of a slang talker, had spiky hair. He was that kind of kid. Now both relationships kind of started to grow, and as that happened, their friend Gemma kind of just faded into the background. Gemma had gotten a new job. She was older than them, so she was working a full-time job at that point, and it was okay with them because they were preoccupied with their new boyfriends, and, you know, Gemma was busy with work, so everybody kind of understood. They were still friends. That didn't change, but, you know, lives got busy. But while all of this was happening, Gemma herself, like I mentioned earlier, she was older than they were, But she was actually in college in 2009. She was about 19 years old at the time, and she, you know, had her own life going on. She had different friends in college as well, and she had things going on in her life outside of that too. She had just a lot of personal issues. She would tell her friends in college that, you know, she came from a lot of money. She lived in a big house. Her family was very well off, and she would also tell them about like bouts of depression and suicidal thoughts. And she had even mentioned at one point she had wanted to commit suicide, and she had told her mom that she was very unhappy with life and she wanted to, you know, take her own life, unfortunately. And her mom said, well, what will make you happy? And her response was, well, maybe a new car would make me feel better. So her mom went and bought her a brand new car. That was the family dynamic that she had. So obviously, in order to buy a brand new car just like that, she had to have a family with some type of funds available. So not necessarily lying about coming from money, but just that dynamic of not really doing really what is needed to support your child who is having suicidal thoughts and going through depression, like getting them help, getting them therapy, really taking the time to be with your child. They kind of just threw money at the problem. So that's the kind of background that Gemma came from. So she kind of led a different life from Jess and Alice and even her friends in college as well. Now, also at this time, Gemma had a love life as well. Gemma was dating Aaron's older brother, Jack. And, you know, they have pictures, and she would show pictures to Jess and Alice all the time of them two together and them with Jack and Aaron's family. Although Jess and Alice never really met Aaron's family, they were able to see them through Gemma's photos. But getting back to Jess. So Luke was about a year older than Jess was. And Luke began to want more out of the relationship than Jess really had bargained for. She was young and she was still a virgin, and she didn't want to take part in sexual activity or things like that. But she had this older boyfriend who was ready for those types of things while she was not. So he would almost force himself on her. Now that they were meeting in person, he would do things like force his hand into her pants, and she would tell him vocally to stop, and he wouldn't. So that right there is sexual assault. But these are the things that were happening because of the age difference and because they were in different places in their relationship and in a different headspace just in general. But after that started happening, their relationship kind of just went south. They eventually broke up, and they broke up while Jess was on vacation. And it was hard for Jess. She really did care for him. She loved him as far as a 15 or 16-year-old can love a person at that time. But she said she loved him, and it really was hard for her to have to break up with him, but he was not respecting her personal boundaries. Now, to get back at Jess, Luke decided that he was going to start dating another girl that Jess went to school with. Jess knew the girl very well. The girl knew that she was dating Luke before, and she didn't care. So that was really hard for her as well, to have to go to school with someone like that. And come to find out, the girl said that they never actually met in person, even though Luke had said to Jess that they had. But after she broke up with Luke, someone else messaged Jess. Now, this guy's name was Connor McCormick, and Connor was kind of Jess's shoulder to cry on through this whole process. He, again, was very sweet to her, but he would tell her things like, you know, she didn't deserve the treatment that she got from Luke, and he knew Luke as well. He was friends with Luke and Aaron, and she didn't deserve what Luke was doing. Luke had told Connor himself what was happening and how he was kind of forcing himself onto Jess, and she was telling him to stop, and Luke was saying that, you know, he felt bad about it and he wished he hadn't done it, but it was too late now. Now, Connor was a guy of the times. He had the Justin Bieber haircut, and back then it was a big swoop of hair, like a big bang, a man bang over an eye or a boy bang. And girls were really into that at the time. She said that he dressed really well in his Facebook pictures, and he was very fashionable, very stylish. He had told her that his dad worked for Simon Cowell, so he had the hookup in the music industry and could get her like backstage passes to see Bieber and other people as well. So he really played himself up, and she really liked that. Now, they eventually met in person as well. He also wore a hoodie and a beanie with that hoodie. So he really basically covered his eyes, so you could never see his eyes. She only saw his nose and his mouth every time that they met. He also told her that he was very shy and that he had alopecia, so he would never take his hat off of his head, and he wouldn't speak. He would just text. Although they were there face to face in person, he would never actually speak to Jess, which to an older, more knowledgeable person, or most even teenagers, that would be strange. But young girls looking for love, looking for affection, it's not something that she thought was a red flag. But she also understood his struggle with alopecia because her brother had alopecia as well. So she understood the insecurities and everything that comes with that and why he wouldn't want to take his hat off. So one day when they were together, he gave her a cute little gold chain, and he texted her if she wanted to be his girlfriend. And she said yes. So a new relationship starts for Jess and Connor. Now, Jess's friends, both Jess and Alice's friends, they were not with all of this. They thought that this was just a hot mess, very questionable for a number of different reasons. So first of all, yes, both Connor, Luke, and Aaron, all three of them, they all had Facebook accounts that looked like they were established Facebook accounts. They had a whole bunch of friends that made it seem like everybody knew them, but all of the friends were added at the same time. So it wasn't like the account accumulated friends over time like normal social media accounts do. And then on top of that, the pictures. There were pictures of these three boys, but the boys only had pictures that were uploaded all at once. It wasn't like over time they were adding a new photo, a new selfie here, a new selfie there, a new family photo here. They were all added at around the same time. So something just did not sound or feel right to Alice and Jess's friends. Now, the other part of that is that all three of these boys claimed that they lived in an area called St. George's Hill. St. George's Hill is not your normal nice subdivision of upper middle class people. This is a private gated community for the elite of the elite, the wealthiest of the wealthy, and the celebrities in the area. So it was strange to their friends that all three of these boys lived in that very same community. There was even one point when Jess and Alice both went to meet Connor and Aaron at St. George's Hill, and they waited at the front gate. They waited for hours. They said they waited until 4 in the morning. And they just kept getting texts from both boys saying like, we're almost there, we'll be there in a second, but they never actually showed up. And this happened a couple different times. But one time in particular, Jess got fed up, knocked on the door of the house that Connor said he lived at. A lot of times she did it before, nobody answered, but this particular time someone actually answered the door. And the person that opened the door said, there's no Connor here. Connor, there's nobody by that name that lives here. Of course, Jess was pissed. And when she confronted Connor about it, he said, basically, you know, that's just something that the maid was trained by my parents to do for security reasons. They were trained to say that I don't live there to keep me safe. And she bought it. Again, unfortunately, just things that happen when you're young and you think you're in love and you're not really understanding the things that are happening around you. But even after all of this happens, the relationships with Alice and Aaron and Jess and Connor, they continue to progress. And for Alice, it progressed to the point of her losing her virginity to Aaron. So they actually had sex for the first time. And it was a little bit strange for her, she recalled, because he kept his clothes on the whole time. He never took his hat off. It was pitch black dark. There was no light allowed to be in the room whatsoever. But she said he was, you know, sweet about it and it wasn't a bad experience in any way. But then after this happened, in January of 2010, something happened that really shook Alice. There was one day where Aaron was over and he was in Alice's little brother room playing Legos with him. And according to Alice, he had asked her to go and get his keys. He said, you know, they're on the side pocket of my bag, basically. So she went to go look for the keys. The keys were not in the side pocket of his bag. So in an effort to find the keys, she's like, well, let me just look inside the bag. She opens the bag, looks inside, and there is a pink dildo in the bag. And instantly she is mortified. This girl is 16 years old. She has a boyfriend. Why does he have a dildo? She needs answers. Before she even comes back, he comes into the room where she is, and he basically tries to explain why he has the dildo. He basically says, you know, he never used it on her other than one time, and that was it. She was mortified. She didn't understand why he would even need to use something like that. What was the point of that? But after he said it and admitted it, she kind of just let it go. But at the same time, Jess's relationship is also starting to progress somewhat as well. So a few months later, in May of 2010, Connor tells Jess that his grandmother has just passed away and he really needs some support and he really wants to talk to her. So he asks if he can stay at her house. Now Jess has to ask her grandmother, who again is not very fond of her dating boys. She's only 16. But when they talk about it, she kind of realizes that she's just trying to be a good girlfriend and support her boyfriend. So her grandmother agrees to allow him to stay if he quote unquote keeps his pecker in his pants. Jess also proceeds to tell her grandmother that Connor has lost his voice. She has to tell her grandmother something as to why she can expect him not to speak. Because remind you, he doesn't speak, he texts Jess when they're in person. So he gets there. The grandmother is trying to be, you know, a good host. She's like, you can take your hat off if you'd like, stay a while. And he grunts at her in response. So it just wasn't going very well. They go into Jess's bedroom and kind of hang out. So later on that night, they're in Jess's bed and they're cuddling and kissing and being teenage kids in a bed together. It kind of goes to the next level, and Jess wasn't really ready for that. What happens is Connor basically forces himself onto her and forces her to have sex. So again, sexual assault. Now this is the second time that this has happened with two different people to Jess. So this poor girl is just having the worst of the worst luck in her love life. He forces himself on her and she is yelling, even though her grandmother is in the other room. She's yelling, she's saying stop. He's not listening. She's saying it hurts. It just was not a good situation whatsoever. So finally, Connor stops. Now this poor girl was also a virgin at the time, so she was hurt. But after the attack happens, and really right after the attack happens, the phone rings and it's Alice. And Alice is calling to talk to Jess. And as soon as Connor realizes that it's Alice on the phone, he immediately texts Jess to tell Alice that Aaron got into a car accident. He went through the windshield and he's on life support. This poor girl, Jess, has to tell her poor friend Alice, after she's been attacked, has to tell Alice that her boyfriend that she loves is on life support. And poor Alice is breaking down on the phone, like doesn't know what to do with herself at this point. So she says all this, they get off the phone. Now why Connor wouldn't have mentioned it when he first got there to Jess to let her friend know, who knows? Either way, after they got off the phone, Connor goes to sleep. She just feels like this is all types of wrong, something feels off. So she takes the opportunity to look under the hat and see his face and see who he is. And when she rolls over to look at him, she said all she saw was Aaron's face. And she was mortified. So basically early that next morning, Jess told him he had to go. And he left. And she basically never heard from Connor ever again. And then that very next day after that happened, Alice is now leaving school and she's getting picked up by her dad. But surprisingly, Aaron is in the car with her dad. And she's super confused because she was just told that he was in the hospital on life support after going through a windshield. But he's sitting here, no bruises, no scrapes, no scratches. And when she asked him about it, he's like, oh, yeah, no, it was just, I got whiplash. That was it. Okay, if you got whiplash, where's your neck brace? Nothing. None of it made any sense. So eventually Jess and Alice talk, and Jess tells Alice, you know, I think it was actually Aaron in my bed that night that attacked me. When I took off his hat and looked at him, it was Aaron's face. It was not Connor, it was Aaron. Alice didn't want to believe it. She basically felt like nobody would lie about being in the hospital. That's something serious that you just don't joke about. So she didn't believe it. But either way, Jess reported it to the police, which is what she should have done. Now, police go over to Alice's house, and Aaron just so happens to be there as well. But when police talk to Alice and Aaron, he denies any of the allegations that Jess has made. He said it was not him at her house whatsoever. He was at the hospital. And when Alice says, you know, babe, go ahead and show them your discharge papers to prove that you were at the hospital. And he responds and says, I can't find the discharge papers. So he unfortunately can't find the paperwork that would be his alibi, a solid alibi for the night in question when Jess was attacked. And then strangely on top of that, a couple days later, Luke is now online saying that it was actually him that attacked Jess. It wasn't Connor, it wasn't Aaron, it was him. But unfortunately, Aaron was the one that was being blamed for it. So it's just all types of mess going on in this whole high school situation. But it gets way worse and takes a twist that nobody expected, especially not these two teenage girls. So after the police have talked to Alice and they talked to Aaron at Alice's house, they set up a meeting, which Aaron does not know about, but Alice is in on it. And she talks to Aaron and she sets up some time to meet with him at like a nearby river. So Aaron shows up, and when he shows up, it's not Alice that's there, but instead it is the police there. And the police are there to arrest him expeditiously. So Aaron is taken into custody immediately. Now, when police take him into custody, they get him to the station and then they have him strip searched. And when they get ready to take off the hat, Aaron is not having it. He is fighting police to not remove this hat. So they have to physically hold Aaron down to remove the hat. And child, when they remove the hat, luscious flows of hair, locks of hair just start flowing down from that hat. And police are taken aback because this is a girl that they have in their custody. This is not a boy named Aaron. Come to find out, it's Gemma. Gemma Barker is all these people, okay? Gemma Barker is Aaron. Gemma Barker is Luke. And she is also Connor. She has been playing her two best friends this entire time. So police want to sit down and they want to talk to Gemma. They want to get a story from her. Why are you doing all of this? Why are you hurting your friends like this? And why are you sexually assaulting your best friend Jess? And when they talk to her, instead of her actually coming out, owning up to what she was doing, admit that she's been playing all these different roles of these boys, she decides that she's going to play the victim as well. So she tells police, you know, I was actually attacked by Luke as well. She said that Luke Jones punched her in the face, broke her jaw, and she went so far as to file a claim to the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board for this attack. So in addition to being charged with sexual assault, 2 counts of sexual assault for both of her friends, she was also charged for fraud because she reported a crime of an attack that never happened by a person that does not exist. Make it make sense, y'all. Now, eventually, Gemma pled guilty to all charges, and whenever she was in court, she had no remorse, no feelings of guilt or anything for what she had done to her 2 best friends whatsoever. So after she pled guilty, the judge had her evaluated as a psych evaluation before he would hand down her sentence, because he wanted to check, you know, you don't want to send a mentally ill person, someone that's struggling with mental illness, to prison if they need to be getting treatment instead. So he had a psych evaluation done on Gemma Barker. Now, when the results came back, she didn't have any personality disorders, which is what everybody thought was going on, maybe multiple personality disorder or split personality, different things that were possibilities with somebody doing these types of things. Like, normal people just don't do these things, or so we thought. But nothing comes back in terms of those types of mental illnesses, but instead she was diagnosed with ADHD and also being autistic or on the autism spectrum in some capacity. But once the judge sees that, the judge sentences Gemma to 2.5 years in prison. And this takes place on March 5th of 2012. And again, even when she was sentenced, everyone said that she showed no remorse. Still, she kind of just walked out of the courtroom like she had just checked out for her groceries and somebody handed her a receipt, and that was it. Just crazy. And that is the story of Gemma Barker. This is the ultimate catfish. This is catfish like on a whole nother level. Typically, you know, you get catfish, you're trying to talk to somebody online, you find out who they are is not who they said they were, but it never goes this far. Once you actually see who the person is, it's kind of done. It never really gets to the point of physicality. This took it a whole nother step. She played a part 3 different times, physically, to the point of sexual activity. Like, how deranged and crazy can you be? But for me, it's unfortunate because this was the case of a younger group of girls being taken advantage of by an older, this girl was a woman. She was 19 going on 20 at the time. And these kids were 14, 15 years old when they met her, and she started these different things happening and getting the ball rolling in all these different ways with these girls. And it's so unfortunate because that's the age where you're just starting to figure things out, trying to figure yourself out, trying to learn what you like, what you don't like. And she completely took advantage of that vulnerability for those girls. And it is so unfortunate. Gemma would do things like talk to Alice about the type of boys that Jess likes, and she would talk to Jess about the type of boys that Alex likes. So she did her research without the others knowing what she was doing so that she could craft and create the perfect boys to approach these girls and for them to fall for it. A lot of people speculated, well, was she a lesbian and she didn't want to come out? Was she in love with these girls and she didn't want to come out with that either? Or was she just afraid of losing her 2 best friends, so she created these people to bring them closer together, even though that didn't really happen? There's a lot of theories out there as to why she did it, but Jess had her own theory, and Jess felt like Alice and Gemma were friends first. And then came along Jess in 2007, and she became best friends with Alice as well. And then through that, she naturally became friends with Gemma. So she felt like Gemma hated her all along, and Gemma created these people to try to drive them apart from each other so that Gemma would get her friend Alice back without Jess having to be involved. She also felt like that was why she was the one that was forcibly being sexually assaulted versus Alice, who felt like what she was doing at the time she thought was consensual and it wasn't painful for her, that kind of thing. So she has her own theory as to why Gemma did this to her as well. I just think it's all unfortunate. I think it's definitely a number of learning lessons for some of these grown adults who still getting catfished out here, even though it's 2022. Definitely a lesson, but also for these young people out here who are deep into, you know, the internet. Everything is on the internet now. People sliding into DMs every day on a regular basis, and people getting married from DM activity as well. So you just have to be careful out here in these internet streets, okay? Be careful who you're talking to and who you're meeting online. Be careful who you choose to bring that online relationship, whatever it may be, into the real world. You need to be careful with these things. You also need to be careful with who you are friends with. Make sure you are watching out for red flags, both online and in reality, because the company that you keep can bring you down quick. This girl planned it, had the money to buy 3 different wardrobes, and had 3 different cell phones. Like, she took it above and beyond a catfish. So be careful out here in these streets, y'all. But that is it for the story, guys. This is also the final Minimalist Beauty Merit Beauty look. I really do love this look. This is a super cute, super quick, everyday look. No lashes needed. I know when I put on the concealer it looked a little bit scary, but it was purposely done that way to give me a natural brightening of the eyes once I put the foundation on top. I really love the consistency of both the foundation and also this lip oil is hitting, okay? Beautiful lip oil. I love it. I'm typically not a fan of lip oils because they don't tend to last very long. This one lasts a very long time and the color is great. It's a nice natural brown that's natural for me and it's great. It stays, it looks like I have something on my lips and not just a gloss. It looks great. Also, these lashes, y'all, I love their mascara. I didn't have to put lashes on. That was the whole goal, was to show you guys what the mascara does without having to put lashes on it. Again, we're going for a minimalist beauty look. So I love that. It definitely lengthened the lashes. I don't know if you can tell in this view, but it definitely did lengthen my lashes. It makes me look like I have way more lashes than I actually do because I'm just about ball in the lash category, okay? So I love these products. I love that they're clean products. They look super natural. They're super easy to work with. They work well with all of my other favorite beauty products as well. So make sure you guys check them out. Check them out at the link below. Again, there's a little bit of a something down there in that link for you guys as well. So make sure you check it out. Support your girl. Thank you to Merit Beauty for sponsoring this video. I love the products. I will be using this for everyday looks. It was way too quick and way too easy for me not to, okay? But let me know in the comments what you guys think about the look, these products, and also what you think about today's story. Let me know if you've gone through a catfish and I want to hear it, sis. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. I'll be in those comments with y'all, so make sure you hop in, say hello. Otherwise, y'all, it's been so fun to get back into a little bit of makeup while I'm doing a little bit of true crime. I know I've been missing on this end of the spectrum for a while, but I'm back. It's been so fun. It's been real. Love you guys. Bye.